Hello everyone. I will talk about a new industrial revolution today. We started hearing more and more about the new industrial revolution or fourth industrial revolution, 3D printing and all those new technologies. But actually there is a question remaining on what kind of futures all these technologies and developments will bring us. In order to understand the dynamics of what will emerge in the future in terms of technological development and its social consequences, and what sorts of actually new systems, new economic, technological systems and political systems will emerge, it is important to understand the dynamics of industrial revolutions in a broader context. So in order to help this, in order to increase our understanding on all the positives and negatives of industrial revolutions, I will try to give a brief historical overview of industrial revolutions we have experienced so far. So we have actually a lot to learn from our past experience, and this may help us to address some of the emerging issues and questions in advance by using our foresight. When we look at the history, we understand that actually the first industrial revolution brought a lot of innovations, with revolutions in machinery, manufacturing, and transportation. We started seeing the emergence of factories, for example, large production plants and factories, and people started moving from villages, from their towns, into those factories, and those kind of traditional agricultural or farmer communities have been actually moved into some cities and gave rise to emergence of new social and economic order. And we started seeing the mechanization of systems, production, the use of water power, for example, the use of steam power, and this actually enabled the production of many products and services and importing and exporting them, and then emergence of new economic systems, emergence of labor classes, and then the emergence of cities, big cities, with its populations, with all its developments, and at the same time pollutions. So all the industrial revolutions, if you look, have brought opportunities and at the same time some negative consequences. The future actually developments are embedded in some of the social or economic or political or artistic world which was done around that time. So this is a picture which is actually coming from the 19th century, from the late 19th century. So if you look at how the Victorians invented the future, there are a number of creative ideas you can see. Especially one of the ideas which is right at the center of the picture. If you read what is written on that picture, it says, Great Vacuum Tube Company. So you may actually easily resemble that what Elon Musk is talking today, the Hyperloop. So you can see that actually the first ideas and concepts of this Hyperloop system was actually lying in the representations from the late 19th century. So some of the innovations are actually emerging from very early periods of time with some inspirations, with some creativity, with some excitement brought by the developments around that time. And they may be materialized later. Sometimes this can be a few decades, sometimes it can be a few centuries later, as we see today. But at the same time, we saw that actually this kind of industrial revolutions have brought a lot of negative consequences too. So this is a picture, again from the Victorian Britain, like in the previous picture, which presented a lot of new ideas, a lot of excitement. This is showing the other side of the coin. The slum days in London. So those are the days probably that you wouldn't want to be in Europe and live in big cities like Paris or London and others, which were greatly affected by this industrial revolutions. Many people suffered ill health and they were starving and they were actually living on the streets and in very poor conditions in order to serve for the purposes of factories and big manufacturing plants, and then they lost actually their health, and then they lived in a very bad environmental conditions. So there are a lot of positive developments and a lot of excitement, but at the same time, a lot of negative developments and poor quality of life. As we moved in time, we continued revolutions in industry and development. So when we look at the second industrial revolution, we see that there's a development of steel and oil. We see the emergence of the electric society, electrification of the society. We started seeing some enterprises with massive profits and labor unions. These were the times the society was introduced, mass production, assembly lines, and electricity. So all these new possibilities actually were captured in representations like this, again, which show a lot of ideas which have been materialized recently. So there are some screens and monitors, for example. First of all, you feel the existence of this electric system and energy everywhere, and the emergence of monitor and more kind of advanced flying machines and more advanced monitoring and the radars, for example, and more advanced control and manufacturing units, bringing a lot of, again, inspirations, a lot of new ideas for development. But at the same time, the second industrial revolution has also produced some negative consequences. Humans started using all these advanced technologies and machines basically to kill each other. So the expansion of rail and telegraph lines, unprecedented movement of people and ideas created a new wave of globalization, but at the same time brought massive destruction, which we experienced through the First and Second World Wars. As we moved in time, after that, we started experiencing the third industrial revolution, which is mainly based on automation and manufacturing, which is actually still corresponding to the time as we are living. So we started seeing new manufacturing systems, the use of computers and automation, and then robots, for example, manufacturing robots like shown in this picture. So we started seeing that the state of things have been developing, they are improving, becoming more efficient, becoming more precise, and becoming clear in many ways. And again, around this time, we see that there are a lot of great excitements. So in order to actually understand the future state of developments, it is sometimes good to look at artwork, or sometimes this can be a great painting, sometimes it can be some sort of a representation from earlier Victorian time, sometimes it can be a cartoon. This cartoon is from Jetsons, which was mainly produced during the 60s. So if you look at the cartoon, actually, you can see some of the ideas that we have been using in the past recent years, or we are about to use, like a mobile phone. Their daughter is using. So we can see actually in the 60s there was an understanding, the emergence of the mobile phone. And there's a kind of a flying machine in here, which we are very much talking about today, like today's drones or other small-scale kind of airplanes, like Airbus is very much engaged in. For example, we know Airbus and also Boeing as two companies which are producing large and larger airplanes, but actually they are very much interested in, at the moment, with personal mobility and smaller scale flying machines. So these are some of the things which started materializing, but some of the earlier ideas can be found in very early representations, which can be found in elsewhere. So sometimes innovation is actually, in that sense, not a taboo. It's just a way of looking things, and understanding dynamics, and understanding actually how people need some new things, or how their creativity actually brings about some new ideas, which can be represented in some different works of art, different paintings, reports, or different places. We just need to expand our sources of information and go beyond not always scientific publications, but look into the work of art coming from different sources. Sometimes it can be a cartoon like in this one. While going into this sort of automation and then computerization of societies, the third industrial revolution also brought about a lot of negative impacts. We started facing increased production, but at the same time, this increasing production meant increasing use of water, energy, stress on natural resources, demographic change, and emergence of megacities as a result of them. So these are some of the negative consequences created by this sort of advancement. What we are seeing now, that this transformation actually continues. So here we try to summarize how these industrial revolutions are changing society, technology, economy, environment, and political spheres. So we can see that actually from the first industrial revolution, we started experiencing urbanization. So we started seeing the emergence of big cities, and this is actually still continuing with the globalization process, also coupled with globalization, and urbanization process is still very much there. And there are technological developments, for example, moving from the use of steam power and then or water power, we are now moving into electric motors, digitalization, and after that, Internet of Things and Internet of Everything. So this is kind of the process of technological development. And at the same time, our economic system is changing. So we started actually producing more and more things, massive amount of things, but now we started talking about more customized products. We moved from the era of production, which was not concerned with environmental pollution, but now we are going into the process where environmental pollution and the impacts of industries on the environment are having greater impact. And at the same time, we see that these are all affecting our decisions, our political decisions, our strategic decisions, and how we are dealing with human lives, immigration, urbanization, and the taxation systems, economic systems. So we see that actually through the industrial revolutions, all these are transforming as we go through. So now we are at the edge of the fourth industrial revolution. So the fourth industrial revolution is actually bringing us some new opportunities. So we started seeing some networked devices, and then moved into some networked industries. So at the beginning, there were some devices interacting with each other, maybe at the production plant level. Then we started seeing a network of industries and a network of gadgets actually communicating with each other. And this is what is called as Internet of Things. Now we are going into the next level, which is the Internet of Everything, which involves human as, again, one of the key determinants of the system. So bringing human and mind into this kind of a network and linking humans' minds, human brains with each other, and linking human brains with machines, with processes, with data, and with the things that we have been using. So this is the system which is called the Internet of Everything. So what futures? We have seen in previous industrial revolutions that the industrial revolutions have brought about many positive developments and many opportunities for humanity. But at the same time, they brought a lot of distractions. Sometimes this was in the form of a very dirty and polluted living environment. Sometimes it created some kind of a world wars by using all these systems, for example, technological systems. Sometimes it created some sort of an environmental impact in the form of, for example, rapid urbanization. So we started seeing that each industrial revolution has brought some positive and negative developments. Now our task is to understand what sorts of developments the fourth industrial revolution may bring about. Are these all positive developments? Would there be some negative developments? So our task is actually to look into the future of the new industrial revolution and understand how we can avoid some of the consequences, negative consequences, which may be brought by the new industrial revolution. We see that on one side, there's a suggestion that the future will be about the world of technology. That is the singularity, where there will be smarter machines, smarter computers than human mind. And on the other side, we see that there's a trend towards human and technology convergence. So if you look at the outcomes of these developments, we see that the questions arise like whether there will be competition or cooperation between human and artificial intelligence, whether this will be friendly, competitive, or how it will be formed. What changes in the social systems all these new technological developments may bring? What are the new requirements for skills, labor, access to services, and what kind of social cohesion issues? For example, we are still educating our students and our labor force according to the rules of the third industrial revolution. But actually, in the fourth industrial revolution, we will need different skills. There is a discussion that the fourth industrial revolution will actually cause the damage for the middle class labor, because actually all this repetitive work will be undertaken by machines, and machines may even go beyond actually repetitive work, and they can regenerate themselves. They can do some of the complex tasks that humans cannot undertake or have difficulty to undertake, which can bring some opportunities for human, but at the same time may actually cause loss of some jobs, massive amount of jobs, particularly at the middle class level. So how can we actually provide or change our education systems, our labor force, how we can prepare our people to take the advantages of the development of the fourth industrial revolution while avoiding the negative consequences of it. So in order to understand it, we need to understand the key principles of this industrial revolution and what kind of changes, what kind of new skills requirements they are bringing, and what kind of new systems are emerging. We are talking about virtual currencies, for example, blockchains, which are very much actually to change the whole economic system, for example, taxation system, currencies, the control of these currencies by government. So we can actually see that there are some massive changes in our economic systems, social systems, and employment systems. And meanwhile, we can always look into some different places, into some cartoons, for example, to understand what these changes might be and what kind of consequences they might be bringing about. If we look at this image of Simpsons, so we can see that we can understand some of the problems which may be brought about by the fourth industrial revolution. So what we can see is that there's a fight between machines and humans, which is one of the likely consequences of the fourth industrial revolutions. If we have machines smarter than humans, then we can actually start having some movements against technological development. And we can actually start seeing some people opposing technological development and scientific advancement. So this is a kind of a weak signal, or it can even be considered as a wild card, but it is definitely worth considering as one of the outcomes of the fourth industrial revolution, like the negative outcomes created by the previous industrial revolutions. So while taking the advantages of scientific and technological developments, we need to understand how all these developments may affect our societies, our people, and how we can actually prepare them for this new era, which is almost at the door. Thank you.